Welcome to Canter Therapy Podcast. I'm Dr. Shelley Appleton. This is a really special podcast because we interview Isabelle Chandler, which is my collaborator in my Racehorse to Riding Horse program. I am very passionate about my Off-the-Track Thoroughbreds and Standardbreds and people understanding them because there's a lot of welfare issues and a lot of safety issues that crop up and a lot of misunderstanding about these particular horses. And I'm really dedicated to changing the world's understanding of these horses. So you'll hear a lot about our program and our upcoming intensives. So if you're interested in off-the-track thoroughbreds or just horse welfare in general and some really cool insights into off-the-track thoroughbreds and standardbreds, please stick around and listen to this great conversation. Also, if you haven't done so, please go and click follow and subscribe to the podcast. This allows our podcast to be seen by as many equestrians around the world as possible. If you'd like to support the podcast, please consider purchasing some Canter Therapy Podcast merchandise because nothing looks better than walking around with a Canter Therapy t-shirt on or a cap. However, you can head over to cantertherapy.com.au to find out more about us and to find out more about Kat and myself and the courses and workshops and services we offer. Okay, so I won't keep you much longer. Let's get stuck into this really fascinating interview with Isabelle Chandler.
Good evening, Shelley.
Good evening, Kat. How are you?
I'm good, and I'm excited we get to be here with Izzy, which is one of my favourite people in the world. So, Isabelle Chandler, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
So, number one, I'm an equine bodyworker. I focus mainly on, I guess you could call it commercial horses, high performance horses. I do a lot of thoroughbreds over the whole industry, racehorses, a lot of yearlings getting ready for sales prep, mares, stallions, young stock. I also do a lot of polo ponies. And then just general horses, but mainly towards the more high performance side of things. That's number one. And number two is I retrain off the trackers.
How did you get into doing that?
I rode my whole life, grew up on a farm, did eventing and pony club, that sort of thing. And then I went to university, didn't like it. So I ran away to New Zealand. I happened to know a trainer who I had worked for about 2 weeks in my holidays one time. And he said, if you ever want a job, come to New Zealand. So I turned up in New Zealand with a suitcase and $50 and started riding racehorses with honestly no idea what I was doing. And then I was there for 3 years. And then I moved to Britain and Ireland and worked over there riding racehorses, worked with yearlings doing the sales through Australia, through Europe, through the States. There's a big circuit that kind of moves around throughout the year. So I did that for a while. Then I came home and moved to Scone and was foreman in a racing yard here for about 8 years before. And I was a jockey as well before I retired and moved into the bodywork side of things.
Amazing. So that kind of brings us to why we're here today. So between you and Shelley, you guys have put together a really cool program. Do you guys want to tell us a bit about that?
We do. I might take over there. Because Izzy and I bond over our love of the thoroughbred. Izzy and I definitely team thoroughbred in this conversation. And I met Izzy while studying with Cami El-Kayam bodywork when she came over because I've got an interest in that. Izzy is an exceptional body worker. I'm like someone or other that just plays around and loves learning more about it so I can train horses better and understand their behaviour on another level. But I met Izzy and we just really got on. And I have always worked with a lot of off-the-track thoroughbreds and standardbreds that people have owned and got a little bit bent out of shape with and helped reboot them. And I was really keen to actually do a specific program just on them. And when I met Izzy, that was just like, it was like a dream person to work with to actually do it, to actually collaborate with someone from within the industry to actually do it that actually has the real inside of the thoroughbred that I didn't. I understood them from the level of when they come out and they're owned by people outside of racing, ordinary people like me on the other side. I don't know whether they're ordinary, just non-racing, the regular Christian community. Whereas Izzy had this really profound, deep knowledge of the horses whilst they're in the racing industry. And then Izzy also is on one side of the bridge of retraining them. So taking horses from the industry, retraining them, handing them over to the public. Let's call them the public, the general ordinary people like me, to the public. And then I was on the other side of that. So when they got sent from the retrainer to their new home, I was the person that people would come to when that had gone pear-shaped. And so when I met Izzy, it's just like, got talking to her, it's, I think we can do this a lot better. It's like, I understand this side of it, and Izzy understood where the horses were coming from. So it's really a very cool collaboration that we have. So we developed a program. I had to first of all teach Izzy my process and get her to actually test it. And I actually included I have a lovely friend, Dr. Jodie Gossage in Western Australia, who is involved in standardbred racing, but is also an exceptional trainer herself. And so she took a standardbred, and we used her as a case study and went through it. And then we were able to put together this very cool package that is promoting the understanding of these horses, what needs to happen, and then our training process, which is supported. It's not just, here you go, here's the information, go watch the videos, see you later. No, Izzy and I are involved in that. So we support from a community forum that we've established within the program. And we run intensives, which are like kind of times where everyone can form a community and work through it together. So we have weekly Zooms through that time period. So that's my side talking about the program. Izzy, you might want to talk a little bit more about it from your side.
Yeah, I think there was definitely, from the retraining side of it, I could see that what I was doing was fine. We were retraining, but it wasn't transferring to the people that would then take the horse home. And this is where, when we started talking about it, and then I think we met through Tammy's course, and then I came to one of your clinics, because that's the thing. Like a lot of retrainers, I'm very used to these horses. I'm used to retraining them. I know how to get the best out of them. What I'm actually not great at is then having a framework that anybody else can use that doesn't understand these horses. And that's the main thing that we were both seeing, where it was getting lost in the middle. Is it's not people's fault in that they were getting the training wrong. What they didn't understand was where the horses had come from, what their life was like, and how it was different to what they're expected to do now, and how that actually has a massive effect on what happens next. And there was just this link in the middle that was missing, which, really just needed the industry experience and the step-by-step guide to be combined, and you have that link in the middle, and then you don't have someone getting lost along the way and making those assumptions about racehorses that everything's terrible and it's all the horse's fault. Now everybody can see that it's just something that needs to be learned like everything else.
Yeah. And Izzy taught me so much about the other side of racing that was super helpful, so I could more understand how it was going pear-shaped, because there's a lot of welfare concerns when horses come off the track, and there's a lot of legality and policy and regulations now about what happens to horses when they finish racing. And there is this big failure rate of what happens. And you've got these really good retrainers that put their heart and soul into taking these horses off the track, but there's a problem when it goes across. We know the problem. I knew the problem from one end, and Izzy knows what goes on at the other end. So combining it, we really have a quite deep understanding of what's happening and where it's going wrong. And what we decided to do was combine our effort and create something that actually can smooth over the process, that we believe can improve the success rate of horses being successfully being able to be transferred from their professional role as a racehorse into the pleasure horse or the equestrian performer in some other discipline, for having a new home and a new life.
Amazing. So would you guys be able to explain why do some off-the-track thoroughbreds and standardbreds struggle in their second careers despite being such talented horses?
I suppose what I'll do, I'll answer the start. I'm just going to define what is talented, and then I'm going to hand it over to Izzy, because Izzy really was able to really make me aware of why things go pear-shaped with these horses, because they've lived a different life. Anyway, what's talented? So talented means you got a horse that's highly trainable, athletic, and have a good heart. Now, I think there's a lot of thoroughbreds will tick all those boxes. And just a bit of a side note, when I first started working with horses, I'd never had anything to do with an off-the-tracker, ever. So I had the same kind of belief that off-the-trackers were crazy. They were like, they were problematic, et cetera, and standardbreds, why would you do that? They couldn't even canter, and they were like super crazy and didn't canter. So I had really bad attitude about it, which is very common out there. And then as I was giving clinics, and I'd have thoroughbreds and standardbreds turn up, and it's just like they were the star pupils. So it was like, oh, wow, these horses just need to be untrained from their racing. But underneath, when you strip all that off, these are lovely horses that are highly trainable, very athletic, and have these amazing hearts. So that's where I was able to fall in love with them. So it's just my ultimate clinic is like all thoroughbreds turn up. It's just that's an easy clinic when they all rock up. Anyway, Izzy, I'll send it over to you. So why do so many off-the-track thoroughbreds and standardbreds struggle in their second career despite being talented?
I think, as you touched on, there's a lot of bias in people's thoughts, and there's sort of two main problems, I think, and one of them is that people don't understand what the horse's life was like. And things like, we talk about this in the course, people give their new horse a shampoo because they're going to pony club the next day, and then they can't understand why it won't eat that night, and then they put it on the float, they take it to pony club, and it goes off its trolley. Because when they were racing, a full shampoo means they're racing the next day. So they're starting to get wound up, they're getting excited, you put them on the float, that means they're going to the races, you pull them off, and you want to ride them nice and calmly, and this horse is just waiting for you to take them out for a gallop. So, of course, they can't concentrate. But if you have no concept of what life is like for a racehorse, you honestly can't see what the problem is, and then you start to label them. And that's where the other people watching get these ideas about what a thoroughbred is, when really it's just misunderstood. And I think going on from that, you might think, yep, I understand what's going on. I'm a very good rider. I can deal. But if you've only ridden warm bloods and you don't have any understanding of thoroughbreds, it doesn't really matter a lot of the time how good you are, because you're still lacking the skills to understand this horse and why they're doing what they're doing. So I think sometimes we can also misinterpret how much knowledge we have about these horses and what they're doing. So again, it all gets lost in translation.
I think bottom line is, as Izzy said, and what she pointed out to me, is that these horses haven't just done a different job. They've been professionally trained animals to do a professional job. They're not pets. So they even have to get used to the concept of being a pet and someone standing there and wanting to pat them. And as I remember Izzy said, I can even quote you, she says, it's not that people in the industry don't love them, don't really care for them and really love horses. It's just the fact that it's your job. They don't get that. They get handled like one after the other. They've got to go through their routine for the day. And they just don't live this life as someone wanting to walk up to them, pat them and feed them carrot and want to hang out with them and something like that. It's alien. So even just being treated as a pet is alien, besides the fact that they're racehorses. That's a highly skilled job that's very specific. As I like to say to people, it's like you go take a police attack dog, right, that you use to hunt down someone in a police chase, and you think you can just take it home and take it to be a kid's party pat dog. Like, it's trained to do another job. They need to be untrained and then retrained, and their life before really understood.
That's so true. And it's so true of what you said about people getting biased opinions about them based on them just not being understood.
Yeah, you go see them being crazy at Pony Club, they fall into the stereotype. But what it is, really what's happened when you go and see a crazy off-the-track horse, it's actually just representing a horse that hasn't been transferred over properly. It hasn't actually been trained and supported into its new role. So it's a reflection, really, and I'm going to say this and might cop some heat, but it's a reflection of the naivety and the ignorance. I was ignorant myself, so I was totally in that category before I came aware of the person that's sitting on its back or hanging onto the lead rope. When they're handled as what we recommend we do with horses, we completely transform that. People don't understand that if anyone's had a greyhound, they've ever had a rescue greyhound, you quickly discover that greyhounds are lounge lizards. Like, do I really have to run fast? Guess what? Thoroughbreds are actually pretty much the same. Do what you mean I don't have to go fast? They embrace that very quickly. It's just a job they've been trained to do, and they're very athletic at being able to do it.
So what do people need to understand about how racehorses have been trained and conditioned for their racing careers?
I think what people don't appreciate is how much rigidity and predictability was in their routine for a start. These horses that might look crazy at Pony Club quite probably weren't when they were in training. When they get fed is the exact same time every day. When they get worked, the order that they get worked in is generally the same. Everything happens the same, and they know what to expect, so they can predict it. So even if there are other issues going on, that kind of creates safety. And then you come along, you throw them in a paddock, you keep changing their mates. Sometimes you feed them at 6 a.m., sometimes you feed them at 9. Sometimes you ride, sometimes you don't. They've lost all of that structure that they relied on. And so I think that's one of the first things that goes wrong, is people don't actually understand how much they rely on that structure. One of the other things with that, like we were talking about in our discussion on the webinar the other night, they've got a very specific job, but they've been trained to do it in a way that is also the complete opposite to how we normally ride. Like horses being keen, they're taught to get up on the bridle. A working canter for a racehorse is, I always thought, quite slow, until I realised as a regular rider, it's probably a hand gallop. They don't go as slow as you go around an arena at a canter. They've actually just never gone that slow. So, you know, the way that they're trained is completely different to the way that you ride normally. The way that they're managed, or the stable management, everything is completely different to what happens with most regular people at home. Everything is different. You're not just bringing another horse home and carrying on with it. You're changing every single thing in their life, and you have to do that consciously and properly, not just assuming that they're going to figure it out on their own, because they're probably not going to.
I think I can point out some things that Izzy really pointed out to me, which was super interesting. First of all, how you steer a racehorse, Izzy. Is it like how you steer a normal horse by picking up one rein and then the other? You don't. Izzy explained that, no, you actually lean. There's a lot more weight, that you use your weight more to steer. Am I correct, Izzy?
Yes, like you don't really use your hands unless the idea is your hands stay locked on the neck. Unless you're galloping, then your hands are up, and then they might be pushing, but there's no real steering in a bend, and just you lean, and you lean forward or you lean back or you lean to the side. That's all there is. There's no.
So just the steering's different, and then there's no legs, because your legs are up high.
And there's no seat.
There's no seat, and also the horses can be quite confronted by that. They're used to a light rider like above them, like in the different positions.
When you come and wrap around them, it's going to be
that also changes how their movement goes through you. So just having that different rider in a different position on their back is different again. So they don't steer like normal horses. They don't have leg cues like normal horses. They don't necessarily listen to your seat like normal horses. Now, in saying that, a lot of horses are cross-trained. Like I know that is. So there's probably some thoroughbred person out there having a heart attack. I'm saying that because they do a lot of cross-training, but generally a lot of don't have that. And a lot of course, standardbreds haven't even been broken to saddle. And just a couple of things that Izzy pointed out, which was great when she showed me this. This is awesome. We had Dash, who was one of our case studies that we were working through, and Izzy got on him and at the mounting block, because it's just like, I don't know about mounting blocks. And so these people that can just vault on top of them or get thrown on top of them. And Izzy was showing me this very cool demonstration. She'd get on Dash on a loose rein and she'd have her feet out of the stirrup and Dash would just stand there all sweet. Anyway, as soon as she put her feet in the stirrups and shortened the reins or even just put a foot in the stirrups, he started getting agitated. Explain, Izzy, why that happens. We don't realise that they get triggered by feet going into the stirrups and when you pick up the reins, which is the first thing most people do. But Izzy, tell us, why do they get triggered by that?
Because quite often, a lot of the time when you're riding on the track, your stirrups are quite short. So you might wander down to the track with your feet out of the stirrups, and then when you get ready to go, you pop your feet in the stirrups and off you trot. So then you pick up your reins, you cross them, and away you go. So anytime you pick up the reins, anytime you put your feet in the stirrups, the horse immediately thinks, time to go, let's go.
Well, and then because it doesn't have leg cues, it's got these other cues. Sorry, Izzy, go on.
No, and that's the thing. Like they still have very specific cues. It's just, it was really eye-opening for me talking to you because having spent close to over now 20 years involved in the industry, I forget that people don't know this. This is my everyday life. I just didn't recognize that people didn't know about racehorses, that there could be people that didn't even understand, that people bought racehorses without ever having seen a race in their life. So for me, it was really bizarre that people didn't just understand these things that seemed common knowledge to me. And also, obviously, you wouldn't do them when you got a horse. And again, here's your missing link between the industry and the person that takes the horse.
That's right. We talk about it all the time, this hilarious thing about Izzy's perception of things versus my perception of things. And we talk about it quite regularly and reflect on it because Izzy will ride a horse. She doesn't care if it's fast. Izzy, you like speed, don't you? That doesn't worry you. And if it doesn't steer normally, that doesn't worry you. Just steers like a racehorse. So you can deal with that. You immediately just flip into that. Doesn't mean anything to you. Whereas with me, if I got on a horse and it didn't steer normally, that would freak me out. If it went super fast or started trotting as soon as I put my feet in the stirrup, that would be disconcerting. Izzy's rule is if it doesn't bolt, buck or rear, and it's just, that's your mark, because mine are like that it feels out of control. Like I don't have
like they can bolt it or walk, Shelley.
That's right. It trotted when I wanted it to walk. That's enough to freak some people out. And it would have freaked me out before I started working with horses more. But I completely understand. So it's so funny. And that's what Izzy was saying. There's just within retraining, there's just not this knowledge of people don't have that just don't know that. Because to Izzy, that's just what you do. It's like common sense.
Everyone knows it. It's a threshold concept. So once you understand it, you forget before you knew it.
From that world, it's like getting on an aeroplane and going to Italy and being able to speak the language. But if you don't speak the language, you get off in Italy, it feels weird because you can't understand if you can't speak Italian. It's just that the people that can speak Italian don't know what it feels like to not be able to speak Italian. You don't consider it. So that's what it's like. Yeah, fascinating.
I think that leads us really well into the next question. So why is retraining an off-the-track horse as much about educating the person as it is about educating the horse?
I'll take this one first and then Izzy can go on. It's just that the horse the horse reflects your knowledge and skills. It just is. That's a fact. It can have an interference if there is something wrong, like not right, not 100% sound in the horse that can get in the road of good training. But the horse will reflect your knowledge and skills of how good it is. So when people get lost or they get frustrated with a horse, it means that they've reached their limit of what they know. And it's not going to plan. Yeah, so educating the person is everything. But Izzy shows it from the retrainers that hand those horses over. Those are good horses that don't buck, bolt or rear, can do everything, and then they're handed over and it all goes pear-shaped. So there's the missing link is that the horse is still the same horse, but the glitch is what the person knows. Yeah. And I'm always very passionate. That goes with, for me, it's with all breeds. But with off-the-track thoroughbreds, there's so many thoroughbreds in this country. There's so many of those horses that go into the equestrian world. They're a big factor. So what would you answer for that one, Izzy?
Yeah, definitely all of that. And I think, as you said, it's just about if you don't have the ability to self-evaluate, you're really going to struggle to see when something becomes an issue. And I think even sometimes if you can't self-evaluate, you can't assess that pain is what's causing a problem because you think you can fix it. Sometimes we used to get a lot of horses sent back because people were positive that they had the skill, but then recognised at some point that no, they don't. And again, because there's not really much out there to help people if they recognise they don't have the skill to do proper retraining, then they were stuck because there was no other option. So the horse had to come back. But yeah, I think being able to look honestly at your own skill level, how you're working with the horse and what's going on is really important, because otherwise that's when it does start to get dangerous sometimes.
No, definitely.
Okay, so this is probably going to be one of my favourite questions, but what role do physical issues, previous experiences and racing associations play in a horse's behaviour and performance?
Massive. Massive.
Really?
I'm just going to quote Izzy again. Actually, no, I'll make Izzy say it herself. Say your quote, Izzy, about expensive horses.
Oh, yes, about it might be cheap to get one of these horses, but they're definitely not cheap to look after. Yeah, we could do a whole podcast just on this question, really.
Yeah, they can carry injuries from racing for numerous reasons. I just want to say this up front, because I work with so many horses of so many different breeds, and people go, oh, they're just riddled with injuries, etc. And it's just, to be honest, I get horses injured or with soundness issues of all breeds. To be honest,
it just depends on where they're going.
Thoroughbreds and standardbreds might be just this little bit more prevalent than else. And it's just like people go, they just don't touch them, they're too damaged and stuff like that. And it's just like, I see a lot of unsoundness out there in all breeds of all ages and that have not raced. The thing that I'll say about with the thoroughbreds and the standardbreds is that their injuries are more predictable, and there's a lot more known. And they have some predictable injuries, the things that can go wrong. Anyway, I'll stop there. Izzy, you can take over this question because this is definitely your area of expertise.
Yeah, I think just like you were saying, surface level, they get a bad rep because they generally all have a lot of the same issues, and they're issues that make things become very obvious very quickly a lot of the time, you know.
I think they're also very expressive. So when they have these issues, they tell you about it compared to some other breeds that might not.
Yeah, definitely. They've got, so many of them have foot problems. They have joint problems. They have kissing spines, which again, all of these things are related. They've all, like, a lot of them have got ulcers. They've got hindgut issues, which also ties back into not having functioning lymphatic system. Fascia's tight, which means the feet aren't working, and it just goes round and round in circles, and they get very stuck in this loop where everything is getting worse on a level that they can express. And then they've also got a lot of associations that can be triggered by things which causes more stress on a system that's already not functioning because of stress. It looks like everything just collapses, but it's actually a bunch of different things that have just overwhelmed the body. However, what I think people fail to recognize is that this is a bunch of different things happening that's overwhelmed the body. If you start chipping away at each of those things separately, quite often you can get a horse back that becomes perfectly functional. I'm not going to say a horse that's perfectly sound, but you can get a horse that's perfectly functional and, depending on the level, can still be fit for quite serious athletic pursuits. But it's recognizing that it's a bunch of different things that all need to be addressed, and that's where it gets a bit overwhelming sometimes, I think.
Yeah. And that's what Racehorse to Riding Horse, the Off-the-Track Reboot program does, is that we have a lot of information within it about these are the typical things. This is how you look at this horse or care for this horse or bring it off the track using a real holistic approach. These are all the sources of stress. These are all the things that can be going wrong. This is what we recommend you do. Like, the role of the body worker is really important in resetting all the tension patterns in that horse. You need to do the gut and the feed and the feet and the farrier and all these things, and the saddle fitter and the regular saddle fitting to begin with. All little things like this that we've gone through the horse meticulously, going, this is what you need to do and to understand about these horses, because they've got all these stress points everywhere that kind of accumulate or magnify, and it's by understanding, tackling them all. And truly, when you actually look at them of what you've got to do, it's not necessarily just things that you've got to know and be aware of. Sometimes it's just making sure you've got this feed or this gut supplement or whatever. It's not meaning that it's terrible amounts of spending money or whatever. It does if they've got indication of an injury or you get some evidence of an injury. That's when your money starts going to ching. But a lot of things are just very good horse care and management that you just can't be slack on. Like, these horses need it. They need that holistic approach because they've got stress points in a number of areas at sometimes.
Yes. Another topic that's very close to my heart. And one of the things that I love my thoroughbreds, and I love that you guys love your thoroughbreds, and I really like my ponies.
Yes, you're a German riding pony fan. That's true.
So that brings me to my next question. To you guys, what does a successful transition from racehorse to riding horse actually look like?
It starts with the transition off the track. We start there of how long we recommend, all the things to do and to check and to nurture within the horse before you start training. Little things like the feet. You need some good hoof care. You need some feet that are comfortable before you actually start training or go pear-shaped.
You're not just going to chuck it in the paddock and take all its shoes off.
Yeah, no. We talk about that. We talk a lot about shoes and supporting them. A lot of people want to go barefoot, absolutely, but sometimes barefoot's a bit of a journey. And as some people take shoes off too quick and then have no appreciation, that horse is got not just out of balance, not that it's got thin soles and its gut's not good, so its thin soles are going to perpetrate and it's going to get, I call it sensitive sole disorder syndrome. They get sore feet. And so that's a big one. So anyway, dealing with the horse holistically in its management, just as it's chilling down from racing, then into groundwork, all right, into a very simple groundwork program where we can help get the horse's handling and everything really well, basic handling up to round pen work. And if you don't have a round yard to do round pen work, you just start at the lunging. It doesn't matter. But we're putting a whole lot of very basic responses on them. And doing all that, introducing the saddle and the bridle again, because that's actually a step. Introducing all leg cues from the ground before you do it because they've got none. Going through basically the ability to starting their remouthing on the ground because, as I said, they steer by you leaning most of the time. And then knitting that all together and transferring it into the saddle. okay, and stepwise all the way up until you got walk, trot, and canter on a loose rein, and then teaching them to pick them up and put them in a posture. So just like training horse for the first time, starting them for the first time, but it's got the extra element of that you actually have to strip the racehorse responses out of them and unteach that. Yeah, and then that's what it looks like. So it starts just with their care. Care's continuous. Then it goes to groundwork. Then it's making sure you understand they need to be saddled and bridled, and you've got to go through that process again, and mounting blocks that they've never seen before, and then stretching all that into the saddle. It's not something like you just do groundwork and then you just get on them and off they go. It's got to knit together. Every single thing we get to do knits together and relates and connects to the next thing.
Yeah, and I think what all this is doing is we want a horse that can learn new things without immediately associating them with those old habits. So what this course gives is a way to do that. And so from the beginning, when you're figuring out the feet, what's sore before you even start doing them, you've emptied their worry cup from all the pain and anxiety and stress. Then you start the groundwork, which has a whole host of other associations with it, and you're emptying the worry cup there, and then you get on, and again, you're emptying the worry cup. So it gives you these skills. So by the time you've built all that up, and then you start going out and you want to go to pony club and you want to go riding, you have all of these skills that will constantly be able to empty that worry cup, bring them back to you, stop this snowball of association where things get out of control and you get the crazy racehorse. So no matter where you go and what you do, you've got this really solid foundation and understanding of what's happening and why, so you can always bring it back to a place where you have a regular horse, not a crazy off-the-tracker.
Yeah.
Yeah, very true.
That's so important. So can you guys tell me a bit about why your program is different to simply trying to figure it out alone?
Because it actually gives you a very clear direction, a very tried and tested process that I test regularly. So I've got very good evidence that it is effective. It's very effective in teaching people. So it's not a lot of things. It's only about 22 things you've got to learn how to do and learn and just perform them at a good level. So it's not like 53 things or anything like that. It's about 22 skills, and it's absolutely doable, but they all knit together. So it's a process where you go step by step, okay? And they all knit together, but there's support there. Izzy and I just don't leave people high and dry. We've got a place for you to come and to actually submit videos, and we will give very good feedback about that. Even if you want to put up photographs of the horse and let us have a look at it beforehand, we will absolutely give you as much support as we can. So it's not just something you enroll in and then off you go uninspired. It's no, we sorted through all the stuff. We got the key information of how to get these horses off. When you get the horses off the track, it doesn't matter whether this horse has been off the track for 5 minutes or 5 years. It doesn't matter. Normally what's wrong with them is it's still got this stuff in it that you've got to deal with. So we go through that. Then we've got the process of retraining them. We got all the red flag points about what it means, right? If something goes pear-shaped, red flags, what they are, what to do about it. And then you've got us there as the support. And on top of that, we run intensive. So it's self-paced, but you still get to go onto the forum within the course site and ask us questions, post videos, and we'll be there to give you that support and that feedback and that advice. But we also run intensives, which are wonderful events where a whole lot of people start working through the process together. It's very motivating because you're all on a bit of a schedule. You all get to know each other because we meet weekly in Zooms.
And it's a great excuse for me to get another horse off the track, and then I work through it with everybody with my own horse live.
So you're getting a new horse, is you?
Yeah. Well, actually, I have 1 or 2 new ones at the moment that we'll be using for this that have just started, but going through it with you. Cool. with my videos.
Yeah. So we do 4-week intensives, but we're just about to start an 8-week intensives, and we roll them through the year to create those communities. And because it doesn't matter whether you can't stick to the schedule during the intensives, it's just kind of nice to work through with a lot of people and hear their stories and learn more about off-the-track thoroughbreds. It's all standardbreds. We've got a very good program for them as well, because standardbreds have a few other little extra things you have to put on because they haven't been sat on before. They've got a few more steps with them, as well as we've really perfected the art of getting their canter a lot better established and a lot better quality. So that's what's in there for the standardbreds. But Izzy, can you tell us, Izzy helps lots of people with thoroughbreds. So Izzy, what was the difference that working through the steps with people made, in your opinion, than when you were helping them before?
I think the really solid step-by-step, because what I see, there are other courses out there, nothing wrong with them, but I tend to find they give exercises to help with softening or exercises to help with this or that. Same as what I was doing. You're going along, addressing a problem as you come to it, resolving it, or often just getting them through it without teaching them not to stress so much about it. But you're not really addressing the root cause of the problem, and that's where there wasn't enough structure. You're just going along, sorting out stuff as it pops up. It's not going back and really making sure something's solid before you go to the next bit. And I can definitely say this from my own personal point of view. It's fine. Most off-the-trackers you can bring home and you can start riding. That's fine. The problem comes when you want to go out and do something, or when you actually really want to start getting serious with your competition. All of a sudden you are failing, and it's not because they can't do what you're asking. It's that your foundation's not strong enough. So you have to keep going back, and you might fix one thing and then you get up there again and then you keep coming back. It's like a house. This is what I think is what really sets this apart, is you're building that super strong foundation. Doesn't matter if a cyclone comes, that house is going to stay standing. Same sort of thing. It's actually not, and this is why it's so good for anyone. Sure, I can go out there and get the best out of this horse, but I can't teach somebody who doesn't have some kind of comparable skill level to me to do the same thing with that horse. With this, I can essentially help anyone with almost any off-the-tracker, because it's a really basic, simple set of beginning steps. And by the time you finish the course, then you can go out and do all the other things you want to do, because you've got this foundation. And that's where I was lacking in being able to help other people with it. Just that really simple starting point and having a consistent map, because I may have jumped around a little bit here and there and you just done what needed doing on the day. So eventually the horse is still fine, but it's certainly quicker this way too.
Yeah,
it doesn't seem... When you're following the steps, it's heaps quicker to get to the same point.
Yeah. So for instance, and a lot of people balk at doing groundwork. Why would you do groundwork? And it's just on the ground. You know how you've got your thoroughbred that doesn't canter one way because it raced one way, so it's got a not so good way and a better way. And people will fight away at that in the saddle for years, where it's just like, give me the horse, let's strip everything off it so it's not dealing with a rider on top of it. And let's just work on that on the ground. And you make them super confident on the ground on both sides, very ambidextrous. And not only that, you physically develop them without the tension and fight that's gone on with you in the saddle. And it's just faster. It's just way faster to deal with when you start that way of common problems. So things that can really hamper your performance, which is tension and which is asymmetry from it, all those things you dig out through the process. Yeah, it's way quicker, even though people think you're going backwards to the ground. And it's like, no, you're not. You're going to the place that's going to make this way easier for the horse and way more effective and actually faster and gives you some good ground handling skills as well. So you can really handle them. If they do have the odd thoroughbred moment, that doesn't worry you.
That too, I think that was one of the biggest things for me, because I'm very good at keeping a horse under threshold, because that's what you have to do when you're on a horse with very short stirrups. You don't have a lot of options, so that you have to keep a horse under threshold. And this is a big thing for them as well that people don't understand. Most of the time, you're stopping them from getting stressed. So you don't put them in the situation where they get stressed. So they don't actually learn to move through an issue. They learn to avoid it. So I think that's one of the really, and that's something that's super, super common with off-the-trackers, is just getting really good at avoiding the problems. Whereas doing this work on the ground and then the start of the ridden work, it's learning to actually have a problem and deal with it and move forward, rather than just stepping around it until it becomes too big and you can't avoid it. And then everyone has a meltdown. But yeah, that was one of the biggest things for me, and one of the most important things I think about this course is it actually teaches both you and the horse to confront an issue and work through it and learn to regulate and move on from it. So again, this gives you a skill that no matter where you are or what's happening, you have a way to deal with it rather than just skirt around it until you can't anymore.
Yeah. In fact, that was a funny moment where we discovered that other difference. So there you are with this very different perception of me of what is dangerous. Yet you were always wanting to keep the horse under threshold, especially on the ground. You were just trying to let's just keep it low. And I'm like, no, let it go. Let the horse work it out. And that was so funny when we worked that out. It's like, you're really good at just keep it contained. Let's just keep it bubbling away and keeping it locked there. And I'm like, no, let it out. And then the horse learned, just letting that go. And that was another fascinating thing of the different worlds, or our different perceptions. But it was like, when you're able to do that on the ground in the safe places, in the safe ways that the course allows, that just taught the horse what it needed to be able to do. And that whole thing, they're not regulating their stress because you're not letting them boil away all the time, but just keeping it under cover.
Simmering, always simmering. They're like a soup.
And then when, of course, they go off and they race, you want that explosion out. We don't want that anymore. We just want chill. So you got to teach chill, which means you teach chill by letting them really understand that what they've got to do, and they just grasp hold of that, know how to navigate, and they also learn to regulate their stress through allowing it. So it's another reason why and when you've got that kind of structure and process behind, with some good voices, and within the community as well, we're getting more and more people coming. They're creating a community of people that really understand these horses on this particular level of working them through this. So we really want to make a big impact in the industry of actually being able to support this, seeing it that this is not a horse thing, this is a human thing. They need to learn some skills, some awareness and some knowledge about these horses that the industry doesn't realize that ordinary, normal people in the equestrian world just don't even know. There needs to be this transfer of knowledge. There needs to be this skill set, and we can make this transition from racehorse to riding horses way more successful. So we really hope we can make an impact to these really special horses' lives so they get a life off the track that's successful, and people, we can mitigate a lot of risk and increase safety as well for people.
That's a big one too, is you want people to be safe and you want horses to be happy.
Yes.
And you don't want horses getting sent back. You want people safe and horses that are staying with those people and actually getting the life that is possible for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if people wanted to find out more about your course or they want to sign up, where do they do that?
We've got a website, which is racehorse2ridinghorse.com.au, all words. Head there. That's our website where we explain everything and find out a bit more about us and a bit more about the program, and of course all links and stuff or whatever to the course. And then Izzy's just doing a rehash of our social media accounts. So Izzy?
So we have a Racehorse to Riding Horse official page. We have a racehorse to riding horse group as well. So the main page is where you'll get all the information, but then we have a group that is really, it's a growing community. I think we've got 400 or 500 people in it now.
Yeah.
And that's where you can share stories, you can ask for some advice and just be part of a community. And you can be part of that group without having joined the course. So if you're unsure, you can ask people and you can just hang out and be part of it and just sit there and get a bit of community support.
Yeah. We've also got an Instagram, Racehorse Reboot. So we've got Racehorse Reboot on Instagram. So that's our social media. But a big call out as well to those racehorse retrainers out there. Our hearts are also with you because we know that you guys are putting in great skills to get these horses off the track and retrained. And then we want to help you with that transition to the person of what they don't know. So we also hope to support these guys in being able to do their work as well.
Before we finish up, I've got one more question for Izzy. For those of us that are watching the video of this podcast, can you tell us a bit about your little friend? So this, listening to the podcast, Izzy's had a little bird sitting on her shoulder for the last one.
So if you've been to any of our webinars, if you have bought the course and looked at any of our videos, you will see this is Jasper. Jasper is a green cheek conure. He's now 16, 17 years old. Absolute attention hog. And this is my eldest child. Doesn't really appreciate being left in a cage like a common bird. So if I'm around, Jasper is also around, and any videos of me on here will always have Jasper in the corner. The other day you got to see him attack my dog.
Yeah, that was in the webinar.
But yes, he's always here, always around.
That's very cool. Yeah, so just a shout out, we've got an intensive coming up. You might be listening to this webinar 1 year's time. So anyway, head over. We got one coming up on the 6th of June.
Which is Saturday, this weekend.
Yeah. However, it doesn't matter. Head over. You'll find we've got other intensive that run. And just remember, you don't even have to, you can just do it self-paced. And then join, once you're in the program, you can join as many intensives as you like for the time of your enrollment. Anyway, thanks so much for your time, Izzy, for coming on and talking about our program. And thank you, Kat, for doing a great interview of us.
It's a bit unusual for me, but yeah, we did it. We made it.
Thanks, guys. I'll say good night. See you later.
Thanks. See ya.